Trust is not something you hand out like candy. It's not a gift you offer because a woman looks beautiful, because she laughs at your jokes, or because she says all the right things in the beginning. And yet, that's exactly what most men do. They meet a woman who gives them attention, and instantly they feel special, chosen, almost blessed. They let her energy sweep them away, and without even realizing it, they begin lowering their guard. They hear her promises and take them as eternal truths. They hear her words of affection and mistake them for unshakable devotion. In that moment, they place their hearts in her hands without hesitation. But what they fail to realize is that those words, that affection, that love, are all tied to how she feels in that particular moment. And feelings, by nature, are not fixed. They move, they shift, they change with circumstances. A woman who looks into your eyes today and swears she'll never leave can, in just a matter of weeks, feel something entirely different. And when those feelings change, she'll often believe the new feelings with the same intensity she once believed the old ones. That's why so many men find themselves blindsided, broken, and confused. They thought love was permanent. They thought words were promises written in stone. What they didn't realize is that they were building their future on the shifting sands of emotion. Blind trust is dangerous because it gives away your power before you've even seen what she's truly capable of. It leaves you exposed to storms you never prepared for. And a man who walks into a storm without shelter is not brave, he's naive. Blind trust isn't love. It's self-destruction disguised as faith. This isn't about hating women or painting them as villains. It's about understanding them for who they are, not who we wish they would be. Female psychology is built differently than male psychology. Where a man's sense of loyalty is often tied to principle, logic, and long-term decisions, a woman's sense of loyalty is tied to feelings, security, and how she experiences life in the present moment. Her emotions are fluid, and because her emotions shape her reality, her word today may not match her truth tomorrow. She might look at you in one season and believe with her whole heart that you are her forever. And in that moment, she means it. But when her emotions shift, when her sense of fulfillment fades, when her attraction weakens or her security feels uncertain, she can look at you the very next season and feel the opposite with the same conviction. That's not evil, it's her nature. The problem is when men build their entire foundation on her emotional state. That's why you see husbands give decades of loyalty, money, and sacrifice only to be replaced overnight by someone who brings nothing except a rush of excitement. It's not because the husband failed to provide. It's not because he wasn't enough. It's because women are not anchored the way men are. A grounded man's word is a contract, it's principle first, emotion second. A woman's word, when she's emotional, is more like a mirror of how she feels in that moment. And if her mood shifts, her promises shift with it. That's why blind trust is dangerous. It confuses temporary emotion for permanent loyalty. It mistakes the beauty of the moment for a guarantee of forever. And that mistake has destroyed countless men. Every man eventually comes to the moment when he realizes love and loyalty are never unconditional. They are always tied to something. A woman trusts you only as long as she feels safe with you. She loves you only as long as you keep her emotions alive. She is loyal only as long as she doesn't see a brighter or more exciting option standing in front of her. The second one of those conditions changes, she changes too. That's why men who gave everything, money, effort, years of their lives, can still be abandoned overnight without warning. It isn't always because they failed. It's because her conditions shifted. The hardest trap to escape is the belief that my woman is different. Men hear stories of betrayal, of wives leaving after decades, of girlfriends trading stability for thrill, and they still convince themselves that their relationship is immune. That false sense of security is the setup for devastation. Because when she changes, she doesn't just walk away, she rewrites the story. She may look back and tell herself she never truly loved you, that she was young and didn't know better, or that she hasn't been happy for a long time. That rewriting cuts deeper than the betrayal itself, because you thought the memories were real. You thought the love was solid. But now she reframes it as an illusion. And that's the brutal truth of female psychology. What feels eternal today may be erased tomorrow, not out of malice, but because her feelings dictate her reality. That's why believing in forever is foolish. Forever doesn't exist in her world. What exists is for now, and if you mistake for now as permanent, you set yourself up to be broken. When a man finally wakes up to this truth, something inside of him hardens, not in a bitter way, but in a way that protects his soul. He no longer hands out trust just because a woman says the right words or shows affection in a fleeting moment. He no longer allows himself to be seduced by sweet promises that haven't yet stood the test of time. Instead, he begins to measure her actions. He pays attention to consistency. He understands that emotions are temporary, but patterns tell the real story. And in that shift, he becomes untouchable. The man who once built his peace on her moods now builds his peace on his mission. The man who once placed his identity in her hands now places it in his discipline and his standards. Love is no longer reckless. It becomes something he engages with intelligently, with boundaries that cannot be crossed. He doesn't give his soul away freely, he requires proof, he requires demonstration, he requires respect. This doesn't mean he becomes paranoid or cold. It means he stops confusing infatuation with truth. He stops living in reaction to her emotions and starts living in alignment with his own purpose. And because his foundation is no longer built on shifting sands, betrayal cannot destroy him. Her storms cannot collapse him. Her moods cannot derail him. He has built his frame on rock, not on illusion. Love still has a place in his life, but now it sits within boundaries, not above them. And that shift is the difference between men who break when betrayed and men who keep moving forward with strength. Blind trust collapses a man. Boundaries make him unbreakable. Here's the paradox most men never realize until it's too late. Women actually respect the men who don't give their trust away easily. They may complain about it, they may call him guarded, distant, or difficult, but deep down, they admire the man who doesn't bend just because she says the right words. Why? Because people in general, but especially women, value what they have to earn. If something comes too easily, it feels disposable. If your trust is given freely without proof, she doesn't hold it with care. But when a man holds back, when he requires consistency before giving his loyalty, his trust becomes a prize rather than a gift. Scarcity creates value, and the man who knows this forces her to step up if she wants a place in his life. She realizes she can't manipulate him with guilt. She can't sway him with emotion. She can't move him with a few sweet promises. He's the mountain, and she's the weather. She can shift 1,000 times, but the mountain remains unmoved. And because he cannot be swayed by her storms, her respect grows. This doesn't mean she'll stop testing him. She might still pull back, push boundaries, or create emotional waves to see if he'll fold. But when he holds firm, when he doesn't collapse, when he requires her to consistently prove herself, that's when the power shifts. Now she knows she has to work to keep him. And that's when she invests more deeply, because she knows she can't afford to lose him. Respect lasts longer than blind love, and respect is born when she sees that no matter what she does, he will never hand over his soul without proof. The man who no longer trusts blindly is not cold, bitter, or damaged, he is free. He has learned that the only person worthy of his full trust is himself. He stops expecting permanence from women because he understands their nature. Instead, he expects permanence from his mission, his vision, his discipline, and his principles. His peace no longer rises and falls based on her moods. His confidence no longer depends on her approval. His sense of worth no longer lives in her validation. He has built his foundation on himself, and that makes him unshakable. He no longer trusts promises spoken in passion, he trusts patterns that stand over time. He no longer clings to words, he pays attention to actions repeated consistently. And in this mindset, betrayal no longer destroys him. Lies no longer break him. Silence no longer shakes him. She may leave, she may test, she may betray, but none of that can collapse a man who never put his identity in her hands to begin with. He can feel pain, but he will never lose himself. That's what makes him untouchable. And ironically, that's also what draws women in more powerfully. Because women are magnetized to the man who doesn't need them, the man who is already full on his own. When trust becomes scarce, when it must be earned, it gains value. She realizes that his loyalty is not something she can demand, it's something she must deserve. And once a man understands this, he can walk through life without fear. He knows no one can betray him deeply because no one holds the keys to his peace. That's not hatred. That's wisdom. That's liberation. That's true strength.